Hi and welcome again to my studio. The project for today is the fun one, I think. We're calling it Spring Landscape, but we're looking specifically at the wonderful artist David Hockney, and also a few of the artists that he has influenced, perhaps, and even the artist that has influenced him. So I think it's going to be fun, and now let's get on. So here's a little look at our materials. Lots of colour, as you can see, oil pastels, all the usual things, acrylics and acrylic inks. I've got a few different makes just over there. I've also got a variety of brushes, and my Posca pens, and also some Sharpies. So lots of possibilities and things to use, and I think it's going to be great fun. As you know, David Hockney was a very prolific painter. He paints for forever, I think. And I've got a few of his pictures here, the ones that we're specifically looking at. He painted in lots of different ways and lots of different styles, but these are the sort of slightly more recent ones, I suppose, the last few years. And I just wanted to give you an idea of just to show you one or two of them, just to give you an idea of, where I'm coming from with the painting. You can see that there's a lot of outlining, heightened colours, simplification as well. Also lots of kind of shapes that sit on the surface, like the flowers, so we'll talk about that as well. And some light and dark, and some flattened tones, so a lot of variety. This is somebody called Philip Sutton. I'm not suggesting that he copies David Hockney, but he's certainly got something of his ideas. And I found out that David Hockney was very kind of influenced or has liked Van Gogh, and you can see the movement in his marks as well. So I've just done a small kind of resume of the kind of marks he makes and the ones we're going to look at. So using outlining to create shapes and to simplify the shapes, and also he makes some of the shapes quite sort of arabesque, as it were, quite sort of curvy. Little marks on top of big marks, not always complementary, sometimes complementary, these aren't. Flat green backgrounds, I see that a lot, where he works into them, like this one. This is done with oil pastels, so you can do it in all different ways. Sorry, this has gone a little bit messy. Complementary colours as well, he uses a lot. These light colours sitting on the surface. Outlining small shapes like leaves, I've noticed that he does that a lot. And again here, complementary colours, red and green, but outlines. I've gone a bit wild with some neon colours, which I like, but big shapes and little shapes. And again, this one, small shapes, which he'll outline quite sort of lightly. So, I mean, he does a lot of different kinds of marks, but we're just going to have those in mind once we start the painting. So this is the photo that I've taken. I deliberately found treesy one. It doesn't have to be treesy if you don't want it to be, but I think it was quite fun to do. Lots of distant spaces and things. It's quite pale, actually. It's quite sort of flat, because when I print them onto shiny paper you can't see it so well, but it doesn't matter because we're looking just for shapes and starting points. And my starting point was to draw with a pencil very simple shapes that I can see in the photo, just get them down in pencil. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to do some outlining. As I said to you before, he does a lot of outlining in these particular kinds of paintings. He uses different colours. I'm using red to begin with, and I'm using a Posca pen. It seemed like a perfect thing to use. And I've tried to sort of simplify the shapes by using the Posca pen. So even when they're quite sort of wiggly, I've sort of made them a little bit kind of simple, and try to get them to sort of flow the way his do, because they're very amazing. So lots of different kinds of marks on here. I'm just going to use, and then I'm going to decide about colour a bit later on, because it would be nice to be quite sort of painterly as well, but this is sort of setting ourselves up. You see this kind of quite sort of what shall I say, carefully drawn shape. I'm really simplifying it and making it quite almost diagrammatic, really, just to get the shapes in. These red shapes, they're holding the painting on as well. That's what he does. You know, the actual outline shapes help to emphasize the composition. And then I'm going to use another colour. You can use any colours you like. You just thought I'd use purple. And I'm doing these shapes which are in the background a bit more in another colour, so that you get more of a sense of distance as well. You don't have to copy him. It's just getting ideas from him. That's what I think all artists do, you know, just to get ideas about how you can find your own style. So, you know, use these ideas to develop your own style. Just carefully outlining, and these ones in the background are going to just make them quite sort of flat. Maybe I could do some thinner lines later on. So you've got much more of a sense, again, of distance, partly because I've stayed with the proportions of from the photo. I think I've probably done enough on here. Just going to do a little bit more, and on to the next stage. So here are my outlines. I'm going to now put some flat colour down. He seems to put flat colour in a sort of background tones to kind of set the scene almost. I'm anxious that we don't get too kind of tight, so I've used acrylic inks to do this, which are nice and sort of light and loose, just to sort of get everything going. And you can see I'm being quite sort of bold with the colour. I think I've maybe used a slightly more bluey colour there, but that's okay. So, whoops. You can see I'm going a bit wild and not being tight. Just putting down colour in the different areas, the different shapes as well. Just light loosely. It's nice because it's watery and you're not going to commit yourself to heavy shapes, but even if you did, I don't think it would be a problem. But you know, think about layers, think about layering your colour on. And then I'm going to maybe use a different green here. I'm going to use a slightly more bluey green, I think. Mix up the colours just to sort of get a different space here, so you can see it kind of it kind of differentiates between the foreground and the background, really. And I'm being really quite, this is the quick bit. The long bit is when you start to resolve the painting later on. So putting down colour. I might want to use a bigger brush. I don't know quite why I'm using such a little brush on this bit. Got my brushes ready. Always have my brushes ready so that I can quickly pick them up. Oops, that's gone on the path. Let me block that away. It's a different colour. And gradually sort of develop all these shapes so that you're, as I say, it's like setting the scene for the painting. One more bit here in green, and then I think I'm going to do the tree trunks. So thought I would not use, I'm obviously not going to use green as the complementary. He does use complementaries quite a lot, but I'm going to use a colour that's quite close but not realistic. So I'm picking my purple, which I often, as those of you that know me know that I would choose quite often. I do like purple, and I'm going to get these sort of trees, ready purple really. I'm going to just get down some colour here as well. You remember that acrylics are so friendly, they'll allow you to change things if you want to, so do not be afraid. So I'm going to do this one also in purple. Still thinking a little bit about space, so I'm going to do this one in purple, but I'm going to do this front one a little in a different colour. I'm going to choose a more mauvey colour. Choose another brush. So I'm going to keep to a more mauvey colour so that again we differentiate a bit in the colours, and these will obviously be developed later on. And then I think the background ones here I'm going to do maybe doing a blue. It's a colour fest really, so don't be afraid, enjoy it. That's why I like him, because I like colours. And any more blues, I might do a blue here. So that I'm getting nothing to do with reality, but still an element of reality because they look like trees, or they look a little bit like trees. So, and then in the background here I'm going to just go to inside of these shapes as well. And then the path, I need to do the path, so I'm going to use actually a sort of slightly orangey colour, but I think it may change at some point. You can see it's quite sort of brown. I'm not sure how much I want to do brown, so we'll start with orange and see how it goes. And again, I'm just trying to fill in shapes, trying to get shapes to work. And here the log, I think I'm going to put a sort of a yellowy colour down here because they're complementaries. Again, just getting started. A little bit up here. You don't have to fill in every shape, and you don't have to, it doesn't matter if you leave a little bit of white of the paper, because you're going to be working over this with acrylic. So let's move on to the next stage.